Now we're going to joined by our guest in the studio, Dr. Jung-yeop from the Sejong Institute. And to the left of me, we have Lee-ji-won, our Foreign Ministry correspondent, here with us today to break down more of today's events. Now, as I said, we know that the two leaders are said to be meeting in Pyongyang to discuss the various issues. What do we know about their meeting right now?
So, Jang-ho, the meeting is now going into its 40-minute, and the leaders started their first round of summit at 3:30. And so we're thinking that they are having a heated debate on the top agendas that they set for this summit. And the agenda for this summit includes improving and developing inter-Korean relations, mediating and promoting talks between Pyongyang and Washington on denuclearization, and reducing military tensions and ending the threat of war, according to the Presidential Chief of Staff Im Jong-seok.
Dr. Yu, I would like to turn to you now. What kind of progress do you think can be made in this meeting?
So, actually, the meeting itself is the progress between two Koreas. So, there has been concerns that when North Korea made criticisms against South Korea and the United States before the summits earlier this year, that there has been concern that North Korea might pull back from the discussions and dialogue with the United States and South Korea. And very recently, North Korea also sent a letter to Secretary Pompeo, which led to the cancellation by the U.S. government to visit Pyongyang. So I think that the most important part of the summit is summit itself, because it shows that North Korea is interested in continuing dialogue with the South Korea and the United States. And also, if we want to get more out of this, is that we can improve inter-Korean relations as well, even though there are some limits because of the sanctions. And also we can discuss further about how to denuclearize North Korea. And thirdly, then we also can discuss about how we can decrease the military tensions, which involves a lot of heavy conventional weapons. So I think that we don't know yet how far they can agree on those issues, but we can be sure that they can produce some kind of agreements that show some gradual progress in terms of inter-Korean relations.
I think we're probably not going to get any outcomes from the summit today, because the presidential press secretary earlier mentioned that there's going to be at least one more summit talks, and until then we're probably not going to see much progress, substantial outcomes from that yet. But if we go to other issues, I mean, let's take a look back at what happened today. They met, there were good hugs, there were lots of good visuals, good optics. What do you make of the events today so far?
So it is important in diplomacy to show good optics to the public and the international world. That shows that today's clips shows that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un himself appeared on the airport to greet South Korea President Moon Jae-in. Even though we have seen those kind of greetings by North Korean leader in year 2000, when then North Korean leader Kim Jong-il greet then South Korean President Kim Dae-jung. However, we still has a skepticism that how sincere or how interested the North Korean leader has in the dialogues with other countries, including South Korea and the United States. This gesture shows that North Korean leader is still open to the dialogue. So I think that is meaningful.
Of course, President Moon Jae-in was not the only one who came to Pyongyang from Seoul. He carried with him a delegation of some 150 people. Now, there was also his wife and other business representatives from conglomerates. Ji-won, what can you tell us more about the schedule for this huge delegation that has traveled with President Moon?
So, Jang-ho, we heard the first ladies of the two Koreas visited the Ongnu Children's Hospital around 2:30, and we also heard that they visited the Pyongyang University of Dance and Music. Now, this University of Dance and Music, it's I think it's a good choice of venue from North Korea, as First Lady Kim Jong-suk and North Korean First Lady Lee Sol-ju have that commonality of music. South Korean First Lady Kim Jong-suk majored in vocal music, and Lee Sol-ju was a singer before she got married to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Now, to tell you more about this Pyongyang University of Dance and Music, as you can tell from its name, it's a performing arts university founded in 1972. So it has a lot of, it's quite a traditional university in North Korea. And it also has departments like national instrumental music, vocal music, and even dance and composition. And one funny note about this university is that one of the renowned alumni of this university is the famous pianist Kim Cheol-rung, who is defected to the South in 2002 to have the freedom of playing a wider range of music.
Now, we're just getting this footage that has been sent from Pyongyang of Moon Jae meeting with Kim Jong-un. Let's see if we can try to get some of the audio here.
문재인 대통령을 열렬히 환영하는 마음이고 또 우리가 앞으로 올해 이룩한 성과만큼 빠른 속도로 더 큰 성과를 바라는 우리 인민들의 마음이고 난 오늘 그렇게 생각하면서 우리가 앞으로 우리 인민들 북과 남의 인민들 마음 기대를 잊지 말고 온결에 그 기대를 잊지 말고 우리가 더 빠른 걸음으로 더 큰 성과를 내야 되겠구나 하는 그런 생각이 됐습니다.
아마 평양 시민들이 이렇게 열렬하게 환영해 주신 그 모습들을 우리 남측 국민들이 보게 된다면 아마 우리 남측 국민들도 굉장히 뿌듯하고 감격해 할 것 같습니다. 그리고 이번 그 회담에
Now the audio coming in right now is quite quiet, so we're going to repeat this message again about the two leaders, but this time with a simultaneous English translation for our global audience.
We've seen the apartments, and I was very much moved by the citizens who welcomed us. Our citizens have welcomed you, and I hope that we will have great results in a very short period of time. And I hope going forward that the people of the both Koreas can share one heart and go forward with one step.
I believe the crowd of Pyongyang ardently welcoming us. If the South Koreans see this footage, I believe that they will be very much touched and moved. And during this summit, I think the people would expect a lot of fruitful results from this summit. Well, after you arrived, there were some proposals that we should have a welcoming luncheon, but since you had a tight schedule this morning, I think it would be better that you take some time, and then after lunch we can meet again for a summit that we would expect good results from.
We had spring in Panmunjom, and it's now connected to autumn here in Pyongyang. And I believe and I hope that we yield fruitful results this time. We are here standing together, but I also feel a heavy burden on my shoulders. But we have been very close, so we have a trust and confidence in each other. And I think, looking at you, I think we have very high hopes. And looking at the citizens who welcomed you, I also felt these high hopes. And you personally escorted us here inside today, and thank you so much. You go to many other countries that are much developed than us. But we will provide a great hospitality as we can to both of you. And when we met in Panmunjom, we did not provide a very warm hospitality due to many locational restrictions. So I wasn't very comfortable, but having been able to welcome you here, I hope that we will welcome you, and I hope you will feel at home.
받아주시면 좋겠습니다.
오늘 뭐 아주 최고의
Well, I think this is the best hospitality. You've shown us the best welcoming ceremony. Thank you so much for this. Well, let's meet again in the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Now that was just
Please
some,
take some rest.
now that was just some footage of President Moon and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un meeting and exchanging some pleasantries. There were some, just some fairly run-of-the-mill pleasantries there. Thank you for the hospitality, that kind of thing. But I think the one thing that really struck me was Kim Jong-un once again admitting that actually North Korea is very much not developed, and that President Moon Jae-in will have been not used to something like hospitality like this, which of course President Moon said it's the best hospitality. But Dr. what do you make of this exchange that we've just seen there?
So it has been included in Chairman Kim's New Year's address for a couple of years in a row, that he took the responsibility of not having developed North Korean economy as fast as possible. And he also mentioned during the Panmunjom summit this year that North Korea's the road condition is not good enough for President Moon Jae-in's taking road to North Korea. So I think that Kim Jong-un tried to show to be humble to the international audience, at the same time that he wants to emphasize that he needs to improve the economic condition of North Korea as soon as possible. So, and he also appealed to our president that to improve North Korea's economy, it is essential for South Korea to cooperate with North Korea in that road.
Now, the two leaders, it's been confirmed that they have started their inter-Korean summit meeting. And earlier, when we had a newscast about an hour ago, we weren't sure who the delegation was. The South Korean press secretary couldn't even tell us how many numbers were going. But now it's been confirmed alongside President Moon, Seo-hun and Jong-yeop will be going. Lee Ji-won, can you tell us a bit more about these two figures that have just been announced that will be accompanying President Moon to the summit?
Sure, Jang-ho. Jong-yeop is the National Security Advisor, and he has been leading the special envoy, President Moon Jae-in's special envoy to North Korea twice. And he's also the very own figure who actually brought out the denuclearization talks between Pyongyang and Washington by becoming the deliverer of the messages between the two leaders. And Seo-hun is the South Korean intelligence chief, and he was also at the very forefront of the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula.
Dr. what do you make of this two figures being added involved in the talks? Probably not a surprise.
So the Ambassador Jong-yeop and Mr. Seo, who's leading our national intelligence, they had been involved heavily in the beginning of the talks with North Korea earlier this year. So I think it is natural course for South Korean government to have those two government officials attending the summit with Chairman Kim this time, and also Mr. Seo-hun also attended the meeting solely with President Moon at the May 26th, the summit with Chairman Kim, when the meeting with President Trump was cancelled. So I think these two government officials were important and essential when it comes to our dialogue with North Korea.
We're not, still, the north side of the talks are still unconfirmed. They've not been able to say who is attending the talks. But we did talk about this earlier last time, in the last broadcast, that perhaps it doesn't matter who goes in the north side. Can you expand a bit more on that again for us?
So probably it's going to be, again, Kim Young-chul, Vice Chairman of North Korea. And it is, Kim Young-chul has been meeting with the South Korean government officials when they have And also he has met Secretary Pompeo by representing North Korea. So I think that until the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un really delegates to someone in his government to negotiate with the United States, Kim Yong-chol probably the only one who will be on the side of Kim Jong-un for the international negotiation and the dialogue.
Okay, so the talks obviously aren't the only thing. They're probably the most important thing of this summit, but they're not the only thing that's going on right now. And especially because we have so little details coming out, I'll move on to some of the other schedules that are happening today. So, Ji-won, if I turn to you now, there's also, we talked a little bit about the wives' schedule, but there's also schedules for some of the other delegation members as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about that as well?
Sure, Jang-ho. One of the meetings that many people are probably curious about is the business leaders meeting with the Vice Premier of North Korea, Lee Yong-nam. Now, South Korea's special entourage this time includes 17 of the business leaders, most of them top of South Korea's conglomerates, including Samsung Electronics Vice Chairman Lee Jae-yong, Hyundai Motor Company Vice Chairman Kim Yong-hwan, SK Hynix Chairman Choi Tae-won, and LG Corporation Chairman Gu Kwang-mo. And like I said, they will be meeting with Lee Yong-nam, and we are not sure what exactly they will be talking about, but there have been speculations that North Korea may propose that these South Korean companies invest in tourism in its Wonsan port or at the tourist site at Mount Kumgang. And in fact, at a press briefing just a few days ago, Im Jong-seok, Moon's chief of staff, told reporters that they believe with this summit, they can expect to move forward with new economic map of the Korean peninsula that the South Korean government has been pushing for.
So the inclusion of these business leaders has raised a few eyebrows and has come under a lot of scrutiny. They would have said, you know, why take these people when at the moment North Korea can do very little economic exchange with South Korea or anyone in the world because of these international sanctions. What do you make of their inclusion in this? What message is South Korea trying to make?
As we have discussed repeatedly, that international sanctions does not allow like foreign firms to make any new entities with the North Korean government to lead a business in North Korea. So all the businesses that we have run in North Korea is the act by the competition of South Korean firms or South Korean government with the North Korean government and businesses. So for our businesses to actually run the business in North Korea, they need to make some kind of new business entities with the North Korean government or agencies, and it's strictly banned from the UN sanctions. So North Koreans knows and our government know that it is not possible right now to make any new business entities to have an economic cooperation project with North Korea. But the reason that our government is bringing these business leaders to North Korea this time is that I think to show North Korean government officials that if North Korea is moving in the direction of denuclearization, so we can lift the sanctions. Then there is a lot of things that we can do with these business leaders because they are already prepared to make investment to North Korea.
Before we move on, just looking back at the pictures we saw just now, it was the car parade that President Moon and Kim Jong-un had when they left the airport to go to their next location. It was obviously the handshake and the meeting at the airport was another important moment in the Korean history. But actually, I think the most striking image today is this car parade, what we're seeing right now there. It did seem like thousands and thousands of North Korean locals had been brought to greet President Moon. In the previous summits, have we seen anything like this before, the scale of this?
It is reported that when former President Kim Dae-jung, then President Kim Dae-jung visited Pyongyang, there was a car parade and North Korean citizens lining up on the street about like 15 kilometers. So I think this might be the same thing that North Korea will try to show their hospitality to our president. And again, this is not typical case in many countries these days. probably the only chance that you see this kind of a parade with the crowds lining up on the street is when a sports team won the national title and come back to their own cities. Or if I can remember that when I was very young, I still remember that South Korea did the similar things when the U.S. president or vice president visit Korea. So this is not a typical thing that we can usually watch, but this is how North Korea, which is a non-democracy, try to show their hospitality to our president.
Jang-ho, I want to add into Dr. Wu's comment. Now, we also have to think that this is even more significant because it is the first car parade that visiting South Korean president is doing with North Korean leader. Now, back in 2007, former President Roh Moo-hyun also held a car parade as he walked a few meters crossing the military demarcation line. But then he was greeted by Kim Young-nam, the nominal head of state, who is also playing the role of president of the Presidium of the Supreme People's Assembly of North Korea. And while they met together, Roh Moo-hyun got onto his car and Kim Young-nam joined him, and the two enjoyed a car parade as well. But back then, it wasn't then North Korean leader Kim Jong-il who joined them. So this footage is also very significant in that the two Korea's leaders stood up from their cars and greeted the citizens together.
Right, but there's one point I want to pick up from you. You just mentioned there, Dr. Wu, that actually, this is part of an undemocratic society that can achieve this, because I'm assuming these people didn't come out voluntarily. They were made by the state to come out to take part in this. On one side, it's kind of scary a little bit. Would you agree? I mean, it is definitely the state making them come out to do this.
I think it is definitely involuntarily things that North Korean citizens do this. One case that the citizens are voluntarily doing this, that the case I remember is when when IOC, International Olympic Committee, sent the people to inspect the possible Olympic site. The citizens of Pyeongchang lined up in the street and greet them in the stadium. So I think that's more of out of voluntarism that they have. But in this case, it is certain that the North Korean government tried to have that many people on the street to show how they are welcoming our president. So again. It is a totally different system, and they are non-democracies, and we've been there before when we also was non-democracies. So I think it's very typical from those authoritative government greeting the people from the outside.
We can only speculate, but looking at those pictures, I'm left wondering, what do you think those people in those crowds, those North Korean people, are feeling and thinking when they see President Moon alongside Kim Jong-un being paraded down the street like this? What do you think is going through their minds?
So since I have never met in person of those North Korean people, so I can only speculate. But the things are really changing so fast these days. So until the December last year, South Korea should be considered like an arch enemy of North Korea, like the United States. However, this year, North Korean people probably watched that their leader is meeting President Trump of the United States, and also they are meeting North Korean leader met 3 times already with the South Korean president, and South Korean president is waving his hands towards North Korean citizens and greeting them. So maybe they have some perplexed feelings on this, and they probably are wondering where is this really heading.
I'm also just getting word that we have footage of inside the plane that President Moon Jae-in left when the plane he took coming to Pyongyang. And we're going to see some of that footage now, I believe. And it's going to show the delegation that President Moon that accompanied President Moon on his trip. Now, if we look some of the faces there, Ji-won, can you help us identify some of the people that we're seeing?
Well, just a while ago, getting into the plane was Song Young-moo, the Minister of Defense, and that is Ailey, the female, the singer, famous Korean singer, and that is the LG Group Chairman Gu Kwang-mo.
Let's go back to that singer, Ailey. So can you tell us a little bit more about these K-pop idols who have been invited to perform in...
But before that, that was the Samsung Vice Chairman Lee Jae-yong. Okay, so...
And this is also the Hyundai Ashan, head of the Hyundai Ashan as well.
And
this is
composer Kim Young-seok. And that is one of the artists who is joining Zico, rapper Zico.
So yes, as I was saying, so seeing as we just saw Zico there, can you tell us a little bit more about these K-pop idols who are going to Pyongyang as well?
So this is not the first time that K-pop idols and young Korean artists have gone to North Korea to perform. Earlier in the year, Korean famous idol Red Velvet was also in North Korea to perform, and one of Korea's most famous girl groups, 소녀시대, Girls' Generation Seoyeon, was also here. And that kind of, I believe that shows how North Korea is also changing. When before it was very reclusive and it tried to hide all these South Korean cultural films, musics, and culture to its people. But it's now, I believe it's changed so much that it's also even welcoming these latest popular idols from South Korea.
Two things like struck me when I saw the footage of those who accompany President this time is that those K-pop singers, I don't consider myself old person in South Korea, but I really don't know what kind of songs they have. So what kind of feelings that North Korean citizens would have if they saw our K-pop singers, since not many Koreans, like old folks like me, do not know what kind of songs they. And also another thing is that I just saw that the Zico was on a coach. I'm not sure whether Zico is taking any coach's seat when he travels on a concert. So he probably does this out of like patriotism, I guess.
Well, we'll hope so as well. I think with just one more, so we also saw on there the business leaders taking their seats as well alongside government officials. Now this, can you explain a little bit about this controversy for viewers outside of Korea, what they might not get? Because for some, seeing these business leaders rubbing up shoulders next to these government officials can stir up some unhappy images, should we say. Can you explain to our viewers a little bit?
So there was a controversy raised during the press briefing by Mr. Im Jong-seok, Chief of Staff, the other day, because some of the business leaders accompanying President Moon this time was indicted by the government for the various criminal charges. So like we just saw that Chairman Lee Jae-yong of Samsung has sat next to Dr. Kim Hyun-chul, our senior economic advisor, and talking to each other. And so there might be, since our government indicted him, but now Mr. Lee Jae-yong is closely talking with our national senior economic advisor. So someone raised the question that whether there's kind of like conflict of interest. So, and also, since our government has indicted them, but at the same time, they requested these business leaders to accompany President Moon for the government business when there's no real possibility of making investment right now in North Korea. So that kind of controversies have been there, but our government briefed that it's not there's no conflict of interest. The legal suit is a legal suit, and visiting Pyongyang is two different things.
So yes, I'm sure for some that answer might be not satisfactory enough. But for now, we will to go ahead with it. And I think it's interesting as well that they're not going to, we don't really know what their purpose and their schedule is going to be like. We have heard that they're going to meet with some North Korean officials, but still the schedule is and purpose is still, what outcomes will come out of it is still unknown. Let's move on to the rest of today as well. Of course, today, after the summit meeting, which will end soon in about 20 minutes, well, scheduled to anyway, they are expected to have a dinner and some sort of art performance that they're going to enjoy. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Ji-won?
Sure, Jang-ho. We just heard that at 5:30, the South Korean first couple will be enjoying the Samjeon Orchestra perform in the Pyongyang Grand Theater. And to tell you more about the Samjeon band, the band consists of 50 to 60 members, mainly playing classical instruments and with classical music. And the band is it is the band that came over to South Korea earlier this year to play for South Korean people just 1 or 2 days prior to the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. And that also brought a lot of global attention to our country as well.
Well, that's where we'll end this part of the show. Thank you for coming in, Dr. Wu, and our reporter, Ji-won, and sharing us your insights, and I hope our viewers enjoyed it as well.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.